got a question for you.
Yeah, give it to me.
I don't know if you're ready to move on a little bit, but
Yeah.
how well do you think Jordan Walker has to do in the spring to break that opening day roster? Because keep in mind, he's not on the 40-man. So someone on the
Right.
40-man roster would have to be kicked off. So
Right.
what do you
That
think?
that's been my thing the whole time. I was like, who do you kick off? And I know a lot of people say, oh, Paul DeYoung, oh, Dakota Hudson, but that's just not how it works. Like there
Yeah.
has to be value there in order to get it done. And I mean, it's got to be something extraordinary. And that's just not how spring training is. It's spring
Hmm.
training's for reps, and like he's not going to go 20-20 in spring training. Like
Right.
he's not going to steal 20 bases, he's not going to hit 20 home runs. Like I don't know what he can do in order to make this team with how full, like yeah, the you like you mentioned, the 40 man is full. So I don't know why people still posit the question and say that it's a shoe in, or that Dylan Carlson has no spot in the outfield. Like this guy is still a hitter, and if he does figure out his problems, I mean he's just leaking out in front of things. So all he has to do is figure out his timing. That's really the only problem that I was noticing from watching film. Like I just don't think there are enough problems with the players that we have, and I don't think there's enough time for Walker to prove that he's more than what we've already seen, which is obviously amazing. But it's got to be, I mean, it's got to be something extraordinary from the current players that can't produce for him to be there.
Yeah, I still don't think he cracks that opening day roster. I mean, you got to keep in mind if you're playing devil's advocate here, I guess kind of like the arbitration process works, and saying why he shouldn't be in the big leagues. It's like he's only done this up to the Double A level, and he has to prove himself. He's still only 20 years old. First off, there's no reason to rush the guy. We got to see how our roster does. Even if we waited a whole nother season and he just does average in the minors, that's better than rushing him up and then just like like
Herrera,
Jared
no,
Keln. Well, I was thinking
well,
like
yeah,
top prospects that flopped.
yeah,
Like, and then like Herrera, you don't want to see him going up and down. I mean, that's the absolute last thing you want to happen to one of your top prospects.
a superstar.
Yeah, a potential superstar. So,
Yeah,
and that's another thing is I don't really want to overhype him too because I'm bringing up that Jared Kelnick again. I mean, when he came up, Seattle was like, "Oh, here's the guy. This is it." And it's like there's no guarantees. So, I just don't want to be that team that has their top prospect just flop. So, I
hmm
hope everyone moving forward is just kind of, I don't know, content with him going down to AAA, having hopefully a good season, and then eventually coming up later in the season after one of our guys proves that either an injury or one of our guys proves that they can't really put it together, or I don't know, something like that. That's kind of the situation I
right.
see him making the roster.
Yeah, it's. I feel like it's a month or 2 months into the season before we see him on the major league roster, and that's nothing against him. It's just a little bit of inexperience and just the fact that we're full. Like
Yeah.
the roster's full. So I mean, I know some people aren't going to be happy with that answer, but that's just the truth. So
I think people don't understand what happens when you get removed from the 40 man. So like let's
yeah,
say if we were to remove someone right now before the season starts, like let's say Dakota Hudson, then another
hmm
team's just going to take him, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's fine." It's like, "No, that's a pitcher that
that
adds
has
depth."
value.
Yeah, he is
He
as
either
much
has
as
value to
people.
the club or he has value to another team. So
Right.
I mean, you can package him up with another player, and you like that's then two spots gone. You can get a player back and then bring Jordan Walker up. Like there's different ways to go about it than just say, oh, DFA him and get rid of him because he's obviously hasn't been performing well. Well, that's just not how the sport works.
Right. And I'm sure the team has high hopes for him going into the season, so we're not just going to DFA a guy that because of his past,
Yeah. I mean,
we don't
every
even
year's
know.
different. Yeah, every year's different. And especially for somebody like a Tyler O'Neill, who obviously knows how to keep good care of his body. But last year he couldn't stay on the field because of his body. So, like, there's still a question about him. Yeah, he can be confident that he can take that center field spot, but like, can he stay on the field? Like that's the big question there. There's so many unanswered questions, and just because of that, you can't rush a guy to the majors to try and solve them all with one player.